Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today, I will be reading from the r/entitledpeople subreddit, so let's jump into it. Entitled family trespasses on my pasture. So first, let me give you some background to help you understand a few things. So I run a cattle operation that I took over from my now deceased father. I have a little over 100 acres, give or take, and my land and cattle are guarded by 12 half Marima and half Sharplaninats guard dogs. This particular breed is big. The head of my biggest male and female is level with my middle rib, and I'm 6'2", so you can imagine just how big they are. All my dogs are trained to patrol the limits of my pasture and help clean the calves right after they're born. They also are trained to guide any other people who come into the property directly to me, and they can be very protective of me, their turf, and the cattle. I've seen these dogs literally tear apart coyotes who got too close to the herd, but otherwise, they are gentle giants. Now that I've given all the background you'll need, let's get on to the story. So I was patrolling the fence with one of my females, Freya, who was a total kiss ass, to make sure the fence wasn't knocked over by deer when I heard Freya huff and bark. I looked over to where she was pointing, and I saw my two alphas, Fenrir, male, and Rosta, whose name means brawler in Norwegian and is female. They were escorting a whole family towards me. There was a husband, wife, boy and girl who were wearing swimwear. Once they were near me, I called the dogs over to me. The father immediately began loudly complaining that the dogs had tried to attack him and his family. I merely raised an eyebrow and said, "Sir, if that was the case, you would not be standing here right now." And he starts asking for the park ranger or the manager of this nature reserve, which had me confused. I then said, "This isn't a nature reserve. This is a private ranch. Why would there be a nature reserve in the middle of a bunch of corn and soybean fields, i.e., farming country?" And then the mother piped up, "Well, it looked like it might be a nature reserve, so we thought it was." I could only shake my head in disbelief at what I was hearing. The mother then went on to explain that they'd come here to look for a place to swim since the local lakeside beach was too full, and they found my creek and thought it'd be a good place to swim. And not long after, my dogs found them and brought them to me. I apologized for yelling and getting upset, but told them that they need to leave. But the dad insisted that they were gonna swim, that I can't make them leave, how it's a free country, and he can go and do as he pleases since he's a sovereign citizen. I look at him and ask, "Did that hurt?" And he asks, "Did what hurt?" And I said, "When all that stupid fell out of your throat, because you're not a sovereign citizen. That stopped being a thing when Abe Lincoln died, and you aren't allowed to trespass on private land. Now I'm going to tell you again, you need to get back to your vehicle and leave right now." At this point, the dad starts to get red in the face, starts yelling that I'm not as smart as I think I am, and how I'm not gonna make a fool out of him in front of his family, which he was doing just fine all on his own, and I said as much. While this guy is ranting and raving, my dogs start to growl while putting themselves in front of me, as they know to do. I start getting worried that this guy will set them off, and I don't want that for his sake. Since, as I mentioned, these dogs have killed coyotes, so I don't want to see what they can do to a human. I try to calm the dogs down, but the dad decides he's gonna act on his anger and insecurities by making a grab for me. My heart stops for a moment as Fenrir knocks the guy down and has his snout right in his face, ready to grab him by the throat. I yell, "Fenrir, no, leave it, come." Fortunately, he listens and comes back. I then shoot out the dad once again for trespassing, picking a fight, provoking my dogs, and almost getting himself killed, all for the sake of proving how much of a man he is. I help him up, brush him off, and check to make sure he wasn't bitten. I try to calm the woman and kids down. I tell them one last time that they need to leave, and I shoo the dogs away and guide the family back to their car. I never had anything else come of that scenario, and while it still pisses me off how stupid and entitled that family was, the dad most of all, and how that stupidity and entitlement almost got them killed, I'm just glad that everyone was okay and hopefully learned a lesson. I guess it just goes to show how no matter what, the craziest things can happen to anyone. I'll start this off by saying I absolutely love the names that OP chose for his dogs. If you haven't brushed up on your mythology, Fenrir is a monstrous wolf dog, loyal and strong, and Freya is the goddess of love and death, which by the sounds of it suits his dogs very well. So A+ on the names, OP. Definitely struck a chord in my little nerd heart. But on to the actual story. That man is as entitled as he is stupid, claiming to be a sovereign citizen and whatnot. But if that were the case, and if OP too claimed to be a sovereign citizen, then this story would have been a hell of a lot shorter. I hope that entitled family learned their lesson and doesn't use the term sovereign citizen so loosely with people that have 3 ginormous, well-trained dogs that could literally rip your head off. Because there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't be as nice as OP, and this story could have ended way worse for that family. Karen cuts in line and steals my dog's treat. Hi Reddit! This happened a few minutes ago, and I'm raging whilst laughing. I took my dogs to the vet. One had an infection, while the other just needed to get her follow-up shots. It's rare for me to take my dogs to Starbucks and get them Pup-a-chinos, but after the vet, I felt as though they deserved them. I went to the one where the window was outside, and you can walk up to it. As we're heading to the window, this lady, our Karen, cut in front of me as I'm about to order. I say, excuse me? Karen looked me up and down through her sunglasses and turns back to order. After she does, she asks to pet my puppy, which I quickly say no. She ignores me and tries, and I step in front of her, creating a barrier between me and my dogs. Karen huffs and walks away to wait for her drink. Now, I should mention that because this Starbucks is located in a very pet-friendly area, they usually go all out with the pet treats. They crush up dog biscuits and sprinkle the chunks on the Pup-a-chino. My order comes out the same time Karen's does. She doesn't pay attention because she's on her phone, and she promptly grabs one of the Pup-a-chinos and licks it. She then makes a face as she bites down on a large piece of dog biscuit. She looks at the barista and yells at her, "What did you do to my drink?" The barista calmly says, "Hun, you grabbed a Pup-a-chino." Karen replies, "What did I bite down on? My tooth is probably cracked." "That would be a dog biscuit, and you grabbed the wrong order." Karen then starts spitting and tries to spit out what remains in her mouth. She walks off frantically, looking for a bathroom, I imagine. Barista makes another Pup-a-chino for my dog. I grab my order and leave. So, not sure if anything else happened after that. What a perfect comeuppance for Karen. Act like a female dog, then eat dog food. But anyways, that is all for me today. I hope you enjoyed that entitled people story. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!